Welcome back to the Stocks Update. I hope you're all doing great. In today's video, we're diving into the latest developments surrounding Lucid Motors LCID, a company that continues to spark debate among retail investors and institutions alike. As always, we'll break everything down: stock movement, technical analysis, market influence, short interest, and the bigger EV picture, so stay tuned until the end. Let's begin by addressing how Lucid performed today. The stock climbed by 1.94%, reflecting a modest yet positive shift in sentiment. This gain doesn't appear to be directly fueled by company-specific news, but rather by a broader sense of optimism sweeping across the financial markets. It's part of a larger rally, where investors are beginning to get excited ahead of major earnings announcements, especially those involving the so-called Magnificent Seven tech giants that often set the tone for Wall Street. Interestingly, one subtle but possibly influential factor today is the silence coming from political circles. More specifically, there haven't been any new or controversial remarks from Donald Trump. While it may sound unconventional, his public statements often inject volatility into markets. When there's silence, there tends to be less unpredictability, and that can translate into temporary bullishness across equities. Meanwhile, we're also waiting for updates on money supply data expected to be released within the next hour or so. That data can have a significant impact on assets like cryptocurrencies, which are already experiencing notable movement today. Bitcoin, for instance, has surged by more than 4%, which often hints at growing risk appetite among investors. As for Lucid's trading actions specifically, today's price range sat between a low of $2.32 and a high of $2.38, giving us a relatively tight window of movement. Notably, there hasn't been any fresh news, no press releases, rumors, or speculation from credible sources. Yet, despite this silence, Lucid's stock managed to rise, again underscoring the broader market influence. However, there is something important on the calendar. At around 4:30 p.m. today, Lucid is expected to open up the floor to retail investors for their usual Q and a session ahead of their Q1 earnings call. These questions, sourced directly from shareholders, play a major role in shaping investor expectations and sentiment leading into earnings. If history is any indicator, we can expect some tough, straightforward questions from the community. In the last earnings cycle, investors raised sharp inquiries about production, liquidity, and overall business direction. This time, there's every reason to believe we'll see a similar level of scrutiny. Usually, the top-voted questions don't change much in the 24 hours after the Q&A opens, so we'll likely know soon what management will have to address. That being said, a lot of retail investors have become skeptical. Many feel that, aside from one strong quarter Q4, Lucid's previous earnings reports have been underwhelming, if not outright disappointing. There's even speculation among some that management has been staging these earnings performances to paint a more optimistic picture than what reality may reflect. So while today's move might seem like a win, it's important to take it with a grain of salt. Trust remains shaky. Let's talk about short interest, an important metric for any stock with significant retail interest. Lucid is currently seeing heavy short activity. Over 285 million shares are being shorted, representing about 23.47% of the company's free float. That's a massive number and shows that institutional investors or large funds are still betting against this company in a big way. Yesterday, there were no shares available to short. Today, some entities appear to have stepped in, likely purchasing shares just to lend them out again. This cycle often leads to what's perceived as fake buying pressure, driving the stock price up temporarily, only to use those shares for more short selling. In essence, it's a tug-of-war between shorts and longs. What's interesting here is that across the board, other stocks with high short interest are beginning to see shorts backing off. That's not the case with Lucid, which could be due to skepticism about the company's near-term growth potential. Next, let's look at the options chain. Even with relatively low trading volume, there's been activity suggesting optimism among a segment of investors. There are around $104,000 in call options and about $121,000 in puts for Lucid. While those are modest figures, approximately 56% of these options lean bullish, indicating that more traders are betting on an upside. The bulls appear to be targeting the $2.50 mark, while the bears see it dropping below that. Interestingly, there was an unusual trade suggesting Lucid could fall below $1 by August 21st. While that seems extreme, these kinds of trades aren't always about belief. They could be hedging strategies or part of larger positions. Lucid also saw some dark pool transactions today, 3 to be exact, 2 buys and 1 sell. The 2 purchases totaled over $900K, while the single sale came in at around $116K. While dark pool activity isn't new, what stands out is the relatively low volume compared to historical trends. This tells us that institutional participation remains cautious, despite the day's green candles. That brings us to algorithmic trading. A significant portion of Lucid's daily movement might be driven not by human decisions, but by bots and automated systems reacting to price thresholds, volume patterns, and technical levels. That could explain why we see these small bounces or dips in the absence of actual news. From a technical standpoint, the $2.33 level is emerging as a crucial pivot point. At the moment, Lucid is trading slightly above this, sitting around $2.36. Holding this level is vital if the stock hopes to build on its momentum. If Lucid manages to sustain above $2.36, the next key resistance lies around $2.55. On the flip side, if it drops, there's solid support at $2.11. These are the levels to watch over the next few trading sessions. Also, pay attention to the 50-day moving average, which currently sits at $2.47. This has historically been a strong indicator for Lucid, often acting as both resistance and support depending on the trend direction. Additionally, the stock is flirting with the exponential moving average, which is also centered around the $2.36 mark, another sign that this price level is a battleground between bulls and bears. A positive note for Lucid is the reading from the stochastic RSI. The stock is currently in the oversold territory, especially when considering the price action over the past 4 to 5 trading days. That might indicate a potential reversal, but only if some solid catalyst emerges, be it earnings, guidance, or a shift in sentiment toward EV stocks in general. Speaking of catalysts, we can't ignore Tesla. Historically, Tesla's performance, whether good or bad, hasn't always impacted the rest of the EV sector. But this time around, with sentiment so fragile, a positive guidance report from Tesla could potentially lift all boats, including Lucid. Currently, analyst expectations for Tesla are rather subdued. The EPS earnings per share estimate is 42 cents, and projected revenue is $21.41 billion. Over the past 90 days, Tesla has seen 0 positive revisions and 15 negative ones. That's a strong indication that Wall Street is bracing for a weak quarter. But that pessimism could work in Tesla's favor if they manage to even slightly outperform. So, what's your take on Lucid's performance today? Are you buying into the recent bounce, or are you taking profits while the stock is green? Maybe you're waiting on Q1 earnings or just holding your breath until more solid news drops. Let's discuss in the comments. Also, if you're planning to submit any questions for Lucid's Q&A session, feel free to share them down below. It's always great to get a discussion going around what retail investors care most about. Sometimes, community insights highlight concerns that analysts and reporters miss. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us continue to bring you in-depth market analysis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.